Community leaders and advocates for immigrants are pushing back against the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration. ICE officers have been in the Chicago metro area for several days now, picking up suspected undocumented immigrants. Protesters held rallies outside an ICE facility in Broadview, just outside of Chicago, back on Friday. A federal agent pushed one protester to the ground. You saw it right there. She says agents also fired pepper balls at demonstrators. The mayor of Evanston, who was there alongside protesters, says federal agents tear gassed them. Mayor Daniel Biss says they will not be intimidated. Joining me now to discuss the public resistance to federal operations in Chicago is Alderman Byron Sigcho Lopez. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, sir, to talk about this. Let's start here. What are your constituents feeling right now as these ICE operations increase?
Good morning, Danny. Thank you for the invitation. It's being terror unleashed on our streets. We saw in the beginning of the Midwest Blitz operation, we already have a neighbor who has been killed in these operations. Yesterday or 2 days ago, there was a neighbor that was tased. There was a U.S. citizen that was tased and hospitalized because of the barbaric nature of these operations. We have seen child endangerment, at least 2 operations, one in Cicero, one in Chicago, in Little Village, in my neighborhood, when a family was stopped. In one occasion, both parents were taken from the vehicle, dragged out of the vehicle in front of their minors. The children were minors, creating child endangerment. And yesterday, what we saw, the shameful actions of Gregory Bobino and his group of mercenaries, because that's how we got a call, people who were shooting rubber bullets. I was there with Mayor Biss and a few other elected officials, including Lieutenant Governor Julian Stratton, a few minutes before this happened. Rubber bullets and chemical weapons that were shot at protesters that were just expressing the discontent with all these shameful operations that are creating terror. We have kids right now that are walking alone to school in some of our districts, and we have schools that right now don't have enough staff. So these children are even vulnerable to not having even any kind of support for the trauma that's been inflicted on them. So we have been seeing terror, violence, escalation that is really terrorizing many of our neighbors. We condemn and we reject these Gestapo tactics, and we want ICE out of our neighborhoods, out of our state, and we want these facilities like the Broadview facility, where we have multiple reports of inhumane conditions, to be shut down.
Alderman, Governor J.B. Pritzker, he's been speaking out also against these ICE raids and pushing back on the Trump administration's plans, or I guess we'll see if it comes true since they've been talking about it for many weeks now, to deploy the National Guard. Do you feel like your community, your constituents are getting the support they need right now from the governor of Illinois?
Well, unfortunately, our community has been neglected, has been ignored, now dehumanized and criminalized for a long time. Unfortunately, we haven't seen any kind of protection from agents who do not have judicial warrants. Their own numbers, at least half of their operations have not judicial warrants, what they call our quote-unquote collateral damage. That's how they call child endangerment and other issues that they are creating in our streets. We also have seen the use of masks. They don't identify themselves, child endangerment, use of tasing, rubber bullets, chemical weapons. They don't collaborate enough with us. So when isn't enough for us to be able to have the Constitution follow? These individuals, these Gestapo operators, do not follow the law. They're breaking the law. They're breaking the Constitution. They commit atrocities and human rights violations with complete impunity. What we are demanding is that our state government steps up to the occasion. We've seen the DA of Philadelphia, for instance, already calling, and I think that it would be important to look at Gregory Bobino track record, like in LA and now in our city. These crimes must be persecuted, and we also have to make sure that we investigate when people even get killed in these operations. What we're demanding also is support. We cannot have right now a rhetoric, a democratic rhetoric, but a MAGA task code, where schools are not fully funded. We have gaps in substance abuse programs because Trump is cutting or withholding our funds, violence prevention programs, you name it. So I think right now what we need is the full action and the full weight of our local government to protect our local constituents, as we did with our Texas legislators that were persecuted as well. I think that we got to do that for every constituent that is really terrorized right now. They're afraid of leaving their homes, or businesses are suffering, or children are suffering, or economy. All of us are discontent. So when is it enough for us to be able to push forward, not only to protect constitutional rights, freedom of speech? We got people who are being arrested and beat up in front of the detention facility in Broadview. So when is the time for us to have a code that tax millionaires so that we can have enough to protect our communities and we follow the Constitution? It's incredible that we are allowing these kind of Gestapo operations without any actions to protect our constitutional and human rights. So yes, I'm calling on Governor Pritzker to move beyond the rhetoric, to understand what's happening on the ground, to work with us to make sure that our schools, our hospitals, our churches are protected, that our city has enough resources to face this horrific attack that is terrorizing, that is defunding our institutions. Where they want chaos, they want escalation.
Right.
I think our city or state deserves better. And I'm calling on Governor Pritzker to meet with us. I have not yet to hear from Governor Pritzker in one of the communities that have been hit the hardest, especially at the beginning of this year.
Right.
I'm yet to have a direct conversation with him.
Well, thank you very much for your time and for sharing your passion on this issue. We should, of course, note CNN at this point has no information that any of these officers have broken any laws. Again, Alderman Byron Sigcho Lopez, thank you for your perspective this morning.